Very good.
Yes. All right. Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I am Malik the Coolbrother. You are now to the Cool Podcast with yours truly, the Coolbrother. This is a very special edition of the podcast here at Level Up Studios. And before we begin, I would like to thank the good brother Mario Quinn Lyles for having us use Level Up Studios here on Penn Avenue to record my podcast episode with the one and only. Now, this brother right here, he does it all. He is a painter. He is a designer. He's a musician. He's my mentor. I call him quadruple crown royalty. Not triple crown, quadruple crown. 1, 2, 3, 4. This brother right here, he is my mentor, Mr. Ajodah. Sarah. Let me see your last name. Sarah.
It's Ajodah Cedarine.
Ajodah Cedarine, sorry about that.
Yes.
But I call him Mr. AJ. You know, it sounds better to me. So welcome to the show, sir.
My pleasure, Malik.
Yes.
One of my first friends here in the city of, I was going to say the city of brotherly love where I was born, but this is not Philadelphia.
Mm.
Although you had to come all the way from Philadelphia.
Yes.
I thought so. You're a Philadelphian.
Yes. And speaking of Philadelphia, I was there 2 days ago visiting my mom, so I just came back Saturday. There's no place like home. There's no place like Philly. So shout out to my mom and all my friends and family and relatives in Philly. So yes. So
yes, and be careful how you say Eagles out here.
Oh yeah.
This is Pittsburgh now we're talking about.
Hey, go Eagles, go Eagles. And that was a great win against the Packers. Go Eagles in Brazil.
In Brazil.
Yes, in Brazil. Yes. So let's get right into it. So
sure.
Tell us what you do and what you're about.
What I do now or what I have done?
What you do now and what you have done in the past.
Well, in the past I have been a lifelong musician.
Okay.
A musical artist.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say artist because there's a lot of musicians. That doesn't necessarily make you an artist.
And let's talk about that. What's the difference between artist and musician?
Well, I would think that artist is a broader statement about talent. Maybe my father was an antique finisher. He was very good with matching colors and coming up with solutions for broken things. So it was like he was an artist.
Yes.
Everything about him was artistic to me. He was very hands-on, could look at a problem and see a different way to solve it. Not taking nothing away or saying that musicians aren't artists,
mm-hmm.
but I'm saying that artistic people usually bleed into other areas.
Okay.
Like Da Vinci was an artist at a number of things.
Yes.
I've known some great musicians who were painters, like Tony Bennett was a great painter.
Oh, really?
As well. Oh, Tony Bennett was a sensational painter.
Okay.
Anthony Quinn, the actor, who was a dear friend of mine named Steve Hollis.
Okay.
Steve Hollis had a friend named Richard Barrett that discovered Frankie Lyman.
Oh, really?
Frankie Lyman was, to me, Michael Jackson before Michael Jackson.
Yes.
But not to get off of the subject of the difference, I don't want to draw hard lines of distinction with it. I'm just saying that usually artistic people, they are in different areas, and they're usually very good. There's a lot of great musicians that can paint, and there are some, I don't know that many painters that play music that way.
Mm-hmm.
But look, dancers are artists.
Yes.
Some dancers are great at playing instruments.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that in some realm, because let's talk, and we'll get into this a number of different ways today.
Okay.
But God, whether you believe it or not, but the first thing you read in a Bible is, in the beginning,
mm-hmm.
God created.
Yes. Created all of us.
He created.
Yes.
So you can walk around and don't believe in him if you want, but I'm saying that it's almost impossible when you are created within yourself not to realize there's a greater creator inside of us all.
Yes.
And there's an artist in everyone. I believe that people, I taught music for 40 years.
Yes.
And it came with all kinds of age levels from 3 years old to 65.
Right.
And I knew people that came to me and said that they didn't feel they had any artistic. And I could show them.
Mm-hmm.
I can show you how to find that side of yourself. Usually what happens with an artistic educator like myself is that you can look inside of a person and see things in them that they can't see themselves.
And speaking of that, I know you sent me a friend request a while back, like back in 2022, and obviously you saw something in me that maybe I didn't see in myself. So let's talk about that. What did you see in me that I probably don't see in myself? What did you see? What made you decide to send me out a friend request?
Well, first of all, I saw that you were a singer,
Mm-hmm.
that you could use the training, because I taught a lot of lessons. So a lot of singers, I've got to tell you, they don't sing in pitch. They're not on key when they sing. Now today you don't know that as well as because in the studios they use auto-tune, auto-harmonizers, auto this, auto that.
Right.
But the real singers, they like, and I use Whitney Houston as probably one of the most supreme examples of that. They don't miss. They don't sing out of. Well, what happens is you have to develop your ear when you don't.
Right.
So I looked inside of you and I saw you as a person where I stopped teaching and really kind of stopped music in the 5 years since I moved here.
Okay.
I stopped playing the piano. I stopped writing music. I already did all of that I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I look and I see certain people, and I'm just studying people on Facebook for what it is, and you caught my eye. I didn't know anything about you from a can of paint.
Right.
But I knew that with my instruction, I could form you into something that was better. I'm going to say, I don't like using the word better with art, but in this instance, I can make a better you. I've been doing it with all kinds of names and all kinds of people for about 4 years. And I can look in and take a 3-year-old, and I usually in my instance with anybody that comes to me, in a week's worth of time, you will understand every note on a piano. See, I don't teach from middle C out.
Right.
I teach what it starts from. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. That's the language where music begins, in the first 7 letters of the alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
And you can unlock anything if you know your alphabet.
Yes.
So a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old can certainly know their alphabet that far. When you get them to make that have some kind of adhesion to what a keyboard is, and they start to see the groupings and they understand what they're hearing to what they're seeing. I had a great rate of successful teachings over those years that I did that. So when I saw you, I also looked and I saw that with a little bit of push on your personality, that you should go and try to be more than a singer.
Yes.
Just like I believe that every singer should learn how to play a piano.
That's one of my favorite instruments.
If you learn how to play a piano, you can practice with yourself to the point where you can go over your scales. You can learn your melody lines for your songs. You can learn, and of course you want to get as far into theory and those things. Look, Miles Davis played a trumpet and he went to Juilliard, but he taught himself how to play a piano. You don't have to play like Van Cliburn to play a piano.
Now speaking of Miles Davis, didn't he get a mentor up in Charlie?
Oh yeah, Miles Davis was very tied up with Charlie Parker, the saxophone. Yes. And he birthed many layers of great musicians. Like Miles Davis was Herbie Hancock or Chick Corea or certain people that went on to become legends in their own right. Of course, the late Wayne Shorter, the saxophone player.
Sergio Mendes?
No, he might have worked with Sergio Mendes because he worked with a lot of people.
Was he like a jazz artist, Sergio Mendes?
Yes,
jazz?
Brazilian.
Okay, okay.
Brazil 66 was Sergio Mendes, who was discovered by, or was on the label with Herb Alpert. the trumpet player.
Now he created A&M Records.
A&M Records. That's correct.
Yes.
Well, you got a little bit of background on you, man.
Yes, and my condolences to Mr. Sergio Mendez family. He just recently passed away, but yes, I do know a little bit of history, because thanks to my mom and dad. Yes.
Absolutely. Well, that's A&M was one of the most legendary labels out of the major labels, because they A&M was more about stars making artistic stars.
Now Janet Jackson was on that.
Janet Jackson was on A&M,
and she did the song Diamonds featuring her album. He was playing the trumpet and she sang, of course. And
that was one of the best albums that Herb Alpert ever put out. It had Diamonds. It had
1987.
Is that what it was? Yeah, who produced that was those boys who got away from Prince.
Jerome.
Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis.
Yeah, Jimmy Jam. They was on the time.
They produced that album.
Oh, really?
With Herb Alpert and Janet Jackson.
Okay.
Because they were always around A&M. I'm saying A&M had like the Police. A&M had Peter Frampton. A&M had like artistic-y kind of pop people. But I think it was better that a guy who was a real musician was at the head of a label. And a lot of what became to what is today was because business people and pencil pushers were the people that were the bottom line for what was put out for a label.
Yes.
So they didn't have the artistic integrity and sometimes even the artistic vision that made music go in certain directions.
And speaking of artistic integrity, with the music that's out now, and I know, and I can safe to say that you're not a fan of it, do you think the artistic integrity part is missing in today's music?
I can't say that, because if I say what I really think about music, it would be wrong for me to step out. I'm not any judge of music. Okay. In fact, music isn't even about competition. A Grammy is about a competition. Competitions have nothing to do with art, in my opinion.
So you not. So speaking of competition, are you a fan of the same competition on shows like American Idol and The Voice?
No. No. First of all, I don't. The Bible says we're not supposed to make an idol out of anything. So what is an American Idol? What are you idolizing?
Right.
So I got to cut that right there. I'm not about. And I also don't think it's fair. There are so many supremely talented people out there that when you're seeing those decisions are not even based many times on artistic merit at all. There's I'll take, and I like her, Fantasia.
Fantasia, yes.
What's it? Fantasia Barbarino, is that her name?
Barbarino, yes.
She is very talented singer.
Yes.
But maybe that year there were 5 other singers that maybe didn't sing like her, but they all could have made millions of dollars if they had the right business model and marketing. See, marketing and all that stuff. See, I fell in between the cracks of the music industry. From where I started, and the story that leads up to that, we can backtrack on it a little bit. Okay. But I'm saying that I fell through the cracks of the industry between how it changed so much from like 1980 to today. It's light years different. And what is constituted today as artistry, you have to be honest, man. Like, how can you think that you are a new school when the music that you use, you take 4 bars of some music that was actually written and played back in the studio? Like, I came from more Philadelphia, back where I came from, South Jersey area, but we had in those days what was Philly International Records.
Yes, Philly International Records. For those who don't know, it was a label in the 1970s, just like Motown was in the 60s. In the 70s, R&B music was all about Philadelphia International Records.
Right. Philadelphia International, it easily rivals Motown for the writers, the performers, and I knew a lot of these guys.
Yes. So you knew Gamble and Huff personally?
I don't know them personally like that. I've met them, but my day came, I played with a lot of musicians that worked and made those hits. because I grew up in Camden County.
Okay.
I was born in Philly, but my 60 or so years before, I moved here. Now I'm aging myself, and I shouldn't do that. But I'm saying that Philly International had like over 175 gold records that came out of that. And some of them spinners, or they produced Michael Jackson, they produced this. And Gamble and Huff were master producers. Whether you liked or not liked, that's depends on your relationship. I know some things that happen, but that just happens in an area where there's a lot of creativity and people start making money.
And
go ahead.
And speaking of the artists and the producers in Philadelphia International Records and the band was named MFSB, which stands for Mother, Father, Sister, and Brother. They also did the theme for Soul Train, titled TSOP, the Sound of Philadelphia.
Sound of Philadelphia.
Yes.
And the drummer on that is a friend of mine.
Mr. Earl Young.
That's Mr. Earl Young.
And
Earl Young is a mastermind. And by the way, I never had a chance to meet him in the flesh. He became a friend of mine.
Yeah.
I'm about to do a painting for him. He doesn't know, but I'm about to do one for him.
Yes.
But I'm saying that Earl Young came up with the type of this infectious drum beat that was used in many disco songs.
Yes.
And that is the era where they actually had live players in those days. His bass player was a guy named Ronnie Baker, who was a friend of and peer of the gentleman that started me in the music business and playing in bands and stuff in my 30s.
Yes.
And that was the late Jimmy Williams. Jimmy Williams was the bassist for the OJs.
Okay.
And Jimmy discovered me through a friend of mine, a bass player, another bass player named, he calls himself the 14th Ghost. His name is Joe Yates. But I knew a lot of Philly International players, great ones, and they were the glue. Another friend of mine, Joe Vincent, they call him Stretch. My drummer, Jeff Whirls. I can name so many that are near and dear to my heart. But Jimmy Williams was a master craftsman. That's how I learned to play and put together any pop song in any genre, any arrangement you want. Earth, Wind and Fire, you name them all. I promise you, Mr. Golden Fingers.
Yes.
It's way before I met you. I wish I knew you back then. I would have to try and impress you so bad, you know.
Now, for those who don't know, Mr. Earl Young, he was a member of a legendary band in the city of the 215 Philly called the Tramps. He also wrote and produced many artists, Harris Baker Young to be exact.
Yeah, that's it. Ronnie Baker and his partner. That's a trio.
Yes.
Like was it Holland Dozier Holland for Motown?
Yes.
That was theirs.
Yes.
You have to understand, and I believe this. I don't think Kenny would be upset with me saying this, but I think that they got a lot from the Motown model because they got the best players. They got the best writers. Tommy Bell.
Tom Bell.
Tom Bell is a genius.
Now he wrote for Tom Bell.
Stylistics,
the Spinners. He also did some writing with the Delphonics with the lead singer William Hart, I believe. God rest his soul. So.
Yeah, that's right. And you know your musicology.
Hey, yeah, I learned from the best. My mom. My mom. I was raised on Motown, Sound of Philly. Motown, I was raised on the Temptations, Stylistics.
Wow.
So, she is the one that put me onto this music, and I've been in love ever since. And I'm trying my best to emulate that because I dress in the suit and tie with the hat, and all that.
Yeah, they call you the Cool Brother.
Yeah, Cool Brother, Dapper Cool,
They're getting to know you. You see that? I told you, your personality's getting known.
Yes.
And after a while, you'll be like a well-known MC, like Don Cornelius was with Soul Train.
Soul Train, and Dick Clark with American Man.
Oh boy, that was filmed in Philly.
Yeah, when it first started.
Yeah, I've been to their studios. I believe it was on Market Street. There was a studio there they had years ago.
Yes.
And speaking of that, maybe we can backtrack a little bit.
Okay.
And talk about how I started in music.
Yeah, let's talk about how did you
Now you have to understand, already told you my father was a finisher. He's from Trinidad
Okay.
by way of India. My people on my father's side are stationed up in India.
Okay.
But they came to Trinidad and he came to the States in the 50s.
Okay.
So actually I'm an immigrant to this country. Sometimes I felt that it's done me justice, but other times I didn't have certain things that if I had them in place, maybe I would have made a better dent in the music industry. My mother is the musician.
Okay.
My mother was a very talented pianist, and she was also a musician for playing behind tent efforts for preachers, so evangelists. And my mother could play any hymn, and she could play it in any key. Whatever, like if the congregation was off, she could find that key and play it in that key just like that. That's called transposing. I don't do that like that. I have to figure it out like on paper and stuff. So I had artistic parents, and I was surrounded all the time by music. I didn't understand or have anything to do with Motown. I didn't know anything about pop music. My mother played Mario Quinn records, operatic stuff. It was always classical. She kept music around me, and I was discovered I could sing when I was like 2 years old. I had a voice, like a fully developed voice. I can remember the first time I stood in front of an audience at a camp meeting out in Pottstown, PA, which is where Daryl Hall from Hall & Oates,
Yes.
he was born in Pottstown. He was from Pottstown, I should say.
And him and John Oates, not to cut you off, him and John Oates, they attended Temple University.
That's right. They were at Temple University.
Okay.
That's right. Now, I'm saying that I remember the first time that I stood to sing a song. I was 3 years old, and in those days the microphone stands were like even the pole itself was too high for me to sing from. So they had to put me on a chair.
Okay.
And I stood on the chair. Now you have to understand, this camp meeting has a couple thousand people in front of me. And there was a song called "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom then shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?" I'm singing this song, and when I sing, there's power. And I had it because I listened to Mario Quinn, the Italian tenor from Philadelphia. I learned how to sing with Mario Quinn records and Enrico Caruso. And then after that, all the pop singers of that time. There was like a guy named Andy Williams. There was another guy named Sergio Franchi. There was some early Tony Bennett. But I'm saying crooners and that type of thing and orchestral stuff was my sense of music until they knew I was a prodigy. I mean, not a prodigy. I was a prodigy, yes. I was going to say protege, but there's a difference. A prodigy, and they got me involved and said, don't let him just become a singer. Make him into a real musician. And I lived near Haddonfield, New Jersey, and my teacher was a pianist. His name was Anthony Casario. He's dead now, but Casario was a phenomenal virtuoso pianist. His teacher had a book written about him. His name was Leo Ornstein. And then Ornstein had a school in Philadelphia, like Settlement Music School or Curtis Institute, which is where you get on the higher ranks of evolution with pianists and vocalists and things like that, which is like St. Juilliard.
St. Juilliard, yes.
Okay, so they call it legit. I call it all music. I don't make a distinction, and I've run up against nasty distinctions that people make by assigning race to music. See, I don't get into that because the language of music is written on a staff, and it consists of 7 notes that has been developing since the year 1500. So you can't come in and all of a sudden start calling Beethoven and Bach and all that white music, and then jazz is black music, and no. I really appreciate people like Benny Green is a friend of mine, a superb jazz musician, but has ultimate respect for classical. Chick Corea did it. He played Mozart, and he played what he did.
Is he speaking of Mr. Chick, is he a pianist or drummer?
Chick Corea was a pianist.
Pianist, okay.
Superb, man. Like Herbie Hancock.
I think I do recall you sending clips of him playing, I believe. Yeah, I still have those. So.
Yeah, okay, we'll keep those clips.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
So Casario exposed the world of classical pianism to me, sight reading, and by the time I was like 10 years old, I was very far down the road as a pianist, classical pianist. I wasn't as good as maybe, I have two piano coaches today, these days. One guy's named Richard Alston.
Wait, you got a piano coach to this day?
Yeah, I have two guys that I use as inspiration.
Oh, inspiration.
I don't have teachers per se.
Oh, okay.
But they inspire me or tell me sometimes technical things, or if I have a question. Richard Alston from Juilliard, a superb pianist, and Antonio Iturriaz, who is a Godowski. And anybody who knows Leopold Godowski knows he's a highly contrapuntal, brilliant pianist that lived. They're my go-to guys for coaches. But Casario was the one that put it all inside. He's the guy that told me, I taught thousands of kids, but I knew when I looked at you and how you were, he trained me to be. He said, I had no doubt that you would ever be a great artist, but he was the one that steered me that way. And then that's when I first discovered Andre Watts, the late Andre Watts, the classical pianist, the brilliant classical pianist, and Vladimir Horowitz were my inspirations. I could never play on that level, but I could get a lot of it. I could get it in. I can still get it in, but like then, in my going into my teen years and stuff, Casario put the stamp on me, and then I went to a Seventh-day Adventist high school out in Hamburg, PA, which is like near Pottstown, called Blue Mountain Academy. Okay. It's a Christian boarding school. And I spent four years waking up to the Appalachian Mountains every day, where I went and I got further involved with. I had a great teacher who was tragically killed in a car accident, named Judy Peters, and but by then the stamp was already there. So I met certain people who are still in my life. Professor Steve Gibson from Howard University told me the first time he walked past my practice room, it changed his life. He knew then he could be great, and he is a great pianist. And then my sister in music was an organist named Dawn McQuiston. They're still my friends to this day. I kept all my friends pretty much along the way. Yes. But if I made enemies, that's okay, because I built bridges. You see what I mean? Because some bridges have to go. Some people in your life, it has not been easy being a professional musician.
Sometimes you gotta burn them bridges.
Well, so I see. So I went to the academy there, and then by the time I reached college, I went to as they call it, a historical black college or university. It was called Oakwood University now. I studied into theology and music. And remember that tandem, theology and music. Because I was acknowledged instantly as a great pianist or a great musician. But I also had the biblical side of things now. I've been a student. I know a Liszt sonata like I know the books of the Bible. I know I'm well studied, not because I was indoctrinated, but because I wanted to know what the Bible says about God.
And I just want to ask you this: do you feel the itch about going back out there performing with the piano? Do you feel that urge to go out there and perform?
Yeah, I am. I am going to play it. Yes,
okay.
I'm going to put an album together we'll wind that. But let's stay with Oakwood, so we can say I'm setting up that foundation because I want to get to the fact that when I was running around, I went from Alabama, and by the way, Oakwood College was attended by people like Clifton Davis,
he was
the actor. Little Richard went there.
Oh, really?
I believe Philip Michael Thomas, Miami Vice was through there. There was some. I use these things to hook people's hats on, not because celebrities are celebrities, but that there was something about that place that shaped something in all of those people.
And
absolutely. Blue Mountain did more to me than Oakwood did, though. I got to say, my high school put a stamp on me that carried me. It gave me a vocabulary. It gave me instincts. It helped me to know how to relate to different, not only backgrounds of people, but the social stratas that are there. My high school gave me more than my college did. But I ended up in Washington, D.C., where I met one of the most remarkable people I've ever known.
Who's that?
Is a gentleman named Francisco D'Arugio.
Okay.
He was a producer. He was a choir director, and he was he has his master's or something from performing arts. I think at Boston University or something. But he is an incredible, imaginative guy with theater. And he got some backers that backed him up to put a production on in the city of Jerusalem in Israel. He went to the actual spot where these historical events happened in the Bible, and he staged a 2-part production of the life and death of Jesus Christ. And it was sound and light production. It was done to a background of sound that was pantomime through actors with some of the most incredible music you've ever heard. And it was drama to the 9th degree. I learned more from that man because he took me there. You know how I got there?
How's that? How?
I played the piano for him. And then he made me grovel on the ground and showed if I could act. But see, I'd already had some acting experience from a guy named Ricky Kahn. Ricky Kahn discovered Crossroads for black actors in Rutgers University. It's still there to this day. Ricky Kahn won a Tony Award. He and his family, the Kahns, we were like very tight when we were kids. And Ricky was about 10 years older than me, but he is a theater master. So I had enough for when Frank told me to act like you've just been shot and then you get hit by a car. So I went out there and get shot, and then I roll like I got hit by a car, and he's sitting there looking at me like maybe I'm crazy or something. And he says, you'll go with me. You'll go with me to Israel. And I went there and I became his stage manager for his $3 million production. It had to be on point every night for every performance. And it was an experience that has stamped my life to this day. And Frank Arugio is having a movie done about one of his Israel adventures right now. It's being staged and done in Hollywood. So he's still living.
Nice.
He's not 90, but he's sharp. And he is one of my staunchest backers.
And it's the only time that's ever been done.
Oh yes, and that's the only time something like that's ever been done, because the life of Christ, you can't just go in Israel and just proselytize or just do any old thing there. You can't do that.
Right.
But he had to, and I watched him and I went on some of these things. He haggled with the Arabs and the Jews with his script. And I remember he loves to say that the one minister, the prime minister of Jerusalem, said to him, if you bring that script here, you'll die on the cross. He pulled it off. The guy he's just an incredible guy. And he inspired me. So I'm saying now we got past college and we got me up to Israel, and that puts me into my mid-20s.
And before we go into that, let's discuss
Yes.
about these paintings.
Oh, my posters and my
Your
designs.
designs. How did you get into that? See, he is, I call him quadruple crown royalty artistry.
Well, the name-
artistry and royalty.
Well, the name of my production company today is Triple Crown Artistry. But okay, if you give me a fourth crown, let it come from Jesus.
Okay.
I'll settle for that.
I mean, you my mentor, so
I'll settle.
Okay. But yeah,
And by the way, it doesn't mean that you're not humble when you are proud of achievements that God does through you. I've been accused of maniacs and all. I've heard a lot of stuff, man.
egomaniac, you? No.
Oh yeah.
No way, not you.
And I've had
Mr.
people
AJ.
say things to me, man, that would cut you and hurt your soul.
Oh man, not you.
I had a guy,
Uh-huh.
and I'm gonna name his name because he still owes me money for stuff I did for him in his studio.
Oh,
Yeah, his name is Keith Benson. So one day, somebody told me that they heard Keith Benson talking about me, and they said, "Oh, he's talented, but he's not world class." That's what he said about me. Now, mind you, this guy could not play one of my Steely Dan bands.
Yeah.
He could not play. He could not play the drums on Asia, and I challenge him to this day about it because I know every inch of that score and play it and sing it like Donald Fagen. I'm telling you that I don't go around cutting people down,
Yeah.
but I learned some hard things about the music business. It's a very tough and very nasty business. There's a lot of people, we call it crabs in a barrel mentality.
Oh, of course.
And I'm telling you, there's a lot of people, man, that would watch you starve before they offer you the bread. And somebody can say, well, that's in all areas of life. Maybe. I'm just saying what I came to learn through hard experience. I had some friends, and I got showbiz tough skin, but I also am a very sensitive person.
Right.
I think you have to be sensitive to be any kind of real artist, because even sensing the difference between two colors that you paint on a canvas says you're sensitive. I know you're sensitive, so
Yes.
it's nothing wrong. I'm saying it's nothing wrong to be proud of an achievement or something that the Lord does through you.
But some people will consider that like you being cocky because you boasting your achievements.
Right.
And no, and it's not that. It's you being proud of the achievements
Absolutely.
that the Most High God gave you.
Absolutely. Now we're talking about art.
Mm-hmm.
See how it says, what does it say, a high tide raises all the ships?
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm like this, and have ever been that way with people that I know who tried to sabotage things. You know, I even worked with a small jazz group for a number of years in Camden, and they were of smooth jazz. They was the best, and that was Jimmy Williams with my dear friend, my late friend, Ralph Jennings, and I had another partner, Sam Cohen.
Okay.
Some of these guys were my partners, but I'm saying I had one guy. I'm not going to name who he is because he's still living.
Okay.
And his daughter has a lot of respect for me because I played at a funeral. I played a number of them too, by the way. Your talent just doesn't make you a star to stand up there, you see. So I was stuck for hustling around money at one time, and I had worked with these guys for 20 years. And I had an opportunity with a rock band because I did both sides of keyboard work. And the money was too good for me to turn down, but I had to have a rehearsal on a day with this group that had this guy I worked with for 20 years. And I had to cut the one to do the other. These guys didn't need me. I was the musical director with that. He wasn't. But he turned around and called me and said, if you do that rehearsal, I got to let you go. And he cut me. And I was after my bread.
Yeah.
Well, when I'm doing bread, I'm about bread. And by the way, I want to say a shout out to my last a guy that's back that way. His name is Kenyatta Thompson. He's a superb producer from Philadelphia. I understand he just got a deal with Warner Brothers. And he's got an arsenal like Prince. The guy is just multi-talented.
Now, Prince. Now, since we speaking on Prince, let's discuss about your musical influence, because I noticed your musical influences. I could be mistaken. Are Prince, Gino Vannelli, and Steely Dan, if I'm not mistaken?
Now, I did tribute acts
For Steely Dan.
covering the music of their music,
Okay.
like note for note,
Yeah.
and not like some garage band version. I'm talking about if you were in the next thing and you put us in two sides, you'd be like, that sounds just like him.
And I would know because he sent me clips of him playing Steely Dan,
That's true.
keyboardist, pianist. So
Yeah.
this one bad piano player. I know.
Thank you.
That's the truth.
I'm saying that, well, I did Ajodah, so I would be out front. Some of them might be out front, or like with the Doors show, I had a guy, like obviously I'm not Jim Morrison, but the music,
Yes.
just like that. You're not going to say B version. Don't even let that form your mouth, man. I deal in A, like my father said, man. And the other thing was, he said, you know what I'm called? He used to call me Illustrious. He said, Illustrious, you know what I'm called? He says, what do? I said, Dad, you're a furniture refinisher. He said, you know what? Say it slow. Furniture, okay. Refinisher. Always finish the job. I had a work ethic. My father taught us when we were little kids, man. And you have to have a discipline and a work ethic if you're going to do Steely Dan. And yes, when you were on Prince, yes, up until about 4 years ago, I knew a very talented guy who who could actually pull off playing Prince's guitar lines and stuff. And we knew that he wasn't Prince. That wasn't it. First of all, he's tall and built and everything, but he was a fantastic musician, and he had the Prince thing. But we put our minds together and created a monster. We had the right singers, and I learned a lot about Prince's music. And yeah, I could get the back end run of, let's say, what's that one? To give you all the picture, you and I do it. What's the song?
Any song?
Bum 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 dun dun. What's that song? The Prince song?
Which one? Let's Go Crazy?
When Doves Cry.
Oh, we don't know.
Yeah, you ever heard the back end keyboard line?
And that's one of the few songs that has no bass on it.
Right, you took the bass out.
Yeah.
Oh, Prince was a monster.
Yeah, of course.
Now, what you think or what you don't, he's a very controversial guy.
Yeah.
I know people have a lot of feelings about him. I was very close to a woman that worked with him for years. She died. She was with him and cut a number of albums with him. Her name was Bonnie Boyer.
Okay.
And Bonnie Boyer was like was a monster. She was a musician that worked with him and told me some things about him. I'm always, that would be like talking to the Wizard of Oz, because I never met him.
Right.
But I'm judging musically from the outside. And the one thing I will say about Prince, that I will say about today's musicians, because all young musicians aren't not with it. I'm saying that the kind of genius that came back in the day of a Stevie Wonder or that kind of thing. But I will say that, like my son or my nephew, who is a monster musician, they're multi-instrumentalists.
Yeah, yes.
They can play the piano, they can play the bass, they can play the drums, they can play the guitar. They're usually vocalists. So today is breeding like Jacob Collier's and Justin Schultz's. There are certain ones that excel in a multi-level, and therefore the approach of laying tracks has taken on a different demeanor. That's why you can see they can come in with a computer about that big, a keyboard about that big, and produce albums on it. Because that's all you really need. You just need a way to track it and a keyboard about that big. What are you going to play? Play the bass notes, play a chord, this and that.
Are you a fan of that?
And I'm not a fan of it, but I've got to change with the times. I haven't really. I'm not the most technically solvent guy, but By the way, if you're in Pittsburgh and you want to get into creating some tracks and stuff, find me. There's ways. I can produce anybody's music. In fact, we should talk about in a minute the People's Court show that I was on, and I was on the People's Court show that was based on that. If you go on YouTube to Ajodah, my name, in musical court.
Spell your name.
Ajodah, in musical court. You can see Ajodah, Michael Jackson, Ajodah, Michael Jackson, Ajodah, Dream This, Ajodah, Dance With Me, Ajodah. It's Ajodah. It's in there. They're more like demos. They're not finished work. I didn't have the advantages that Prince had to just get up any time of the day.
And also, he does music videos too.
Oh yes, that's under what was that one I did? Breaking News. That's exemplary of my work.
Good slaves to the pump.
Yeah, Slaves to the Pump. That's one.
Slaves to the Pump.
Yeah, I'm still working on reviving that.
Slaves to the Pump. I like
And
that.
well, listen. If I had the right producers here, and by the way, I did bring my Sunken Bus studio thing because I planned to work.
Sunken Bus.
Out of Sunken Bus Studios.
Sunken Bus Studio.
Yes, it's very near where I reside.
Back up
And-
forward.
On Babcock Boulevard. I'm even doing it. You know, I'm just constantly pushing other people's stuff online, and there's just so much to appreciate in other people's art.
Yes.
So if you look at my Facebook page, it is the most unique Facebook page because I'm always championing somebody else's stuff. You can go down and you'll see whether it's artists or painters, something that I might find that makes me be inspired.
Don't forget to champion your stuff too.
I do little by little, but I don't really overcrowd my stuff because it's not all about me.
Right.
Now, I am going to go into this album that I'm going to do.
Okay.
It was music I wrote almost 40 years ago. But it's coming off of the idea of evangelists. Now, evangelists are not evangelicals. An evangelical is the name of a movement, like Baptist, Methodist, blah, blah, blah. Evangelists are the people who are the ones who are trying to win souls to Bible study, to Christ, to salvation. And when I went to Oakwood University, I met the best, man. I met guys that knew Dr. Martin Luther King, who knew Billy Graham. My main mentor, he's dead now, was Earl E. Cleveland.
Okay.
And Dr. Cleveland was a monster. I mean, thousands of people. This man is about it for real. This is not televangelism and all this nonsense they have today. And I don't want to get so far into church as much as I want to say that my ambition with my music from here on is aimed at the world of evangelism. I'm not really interested that much in doing like club work and all of that. I did that, man, and also I stepped off of my guard with the Lord when I did that. Like Little Richard would say the same thing. When your life isn't prioritized correctly, God can't bless you that way. So I was always blessed, but I was not doing it in harmony with His will. But I found it. I had to go through some hard stuff. My mother had to die. I had to lose a second marriage. I had to learn to make my surrender and make my faith count again. And now I'm impressed. There's an album I'm gonna do.
Just like, and you said you surrendered to God. It reminds me, Little Richard, he surrendered to God, and also Al Green.
Yes.
You surrendered to God and became a reverend.
And by the way, speaking of Little Richard Pennyman,
King of rock and roll, by the way.
they called the King of Rock and Roll.
Architect of rock.
He was the architect.
Yes.
He ended up being a top-notch evangelist, by the way. When he knew he couldn't keep on riding both sides because show business is diametrically opposed to God.
Right.
Now, I hate to say it, it's going to hurt somebody's ambitions to hear me say this, but I got to call it the way that it is. The Bible says that friendship with the world is enmity against God. All that is in the world is the lust of the eye, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life. The world's standards and the things that the world, the celebrity of the world, look at where the world is today with celebrities, and look what's coming out of the music business. This is for real. This is real spiritual stuff. These are people dealing in witchcraft, and all of it sounds like superstitious gobbledygook. I'm telling you that if you look at most of the major stars that are up there, they have become celebrity famous by experimenting in the areas of the occult. It's occult practices. Whether they want to admit it or not, I'm telling you what I know. And a dear friend of mine, or a woman I knew since she was a little girl, I'd like to say she's a dear friend of mine, but I can't get her to catch up with me again. You know the singer Jaguar Wright.
Jaguar Wright. I was about to get ready to say that too.
My mother was one of her first accompanists when she was a little girl. She was a sensationally talented girl, highly intelligent. You can say what you want to say, but I knew when Jackie started talking about that stuff, I knew she was telling the truth. And I heard people say all kinds of stuff about Jackie, but Jackie needs to talk to me. And one time she needs to call me. And for her father's sake, whom I knew very well, by the way, her father, Norman, I'm saying you need to call me and we need to talk.
Call this man.
Thank you.
Call him.
It would be nice.
Yes.
There's a couple of people that I've got to say when I see them, they can tell you heavier stories. I'll give you another example. His number's in my book. The guy Gene Deal.
Oh, Gene Deal. Yes.
Gene Deal, who talked about P. Diddy and all of that.
Yeah, he was with Bad Boy Records.
He was the bodyguard for the stars.
So, do you know him personally?
I've talked with him personally. Yes, I've never met him in the flesh.
Okay.
He lives in New York.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't really venture up. And you know what? All my best friends from high school are from New York.
Oh, really?
Oh man, listen, I learned a lot from New York guys in my high school years.
New York is expensive as hell.
Well, it may be.
That's what it costs to live in, by the way.
Oh yes, I imagine. I heard like Manhattan is insane to live there.
Of course.
And I heard San Francisco is insane too.
Sheesh.
Very expensive place to live. You know. But I wanted to talk about those two people because they have their fingers directly on what is about the industry, but I'm going to say basically this about celebrity.
Okay.
Celebrity is about allowing oneself to be idolized. And that's why I'm saying, now you may think that these guys just flit off and go to heaven when they die. The Bible doesn't teach that either, by the way. That when they die, they go to heaven. You see all the time heavenly birthdays and all this stuff. Listen, man, God is together with his program. When he comes and makes his move on this, and he's going to make his move, we are in, prophetically, the last days. That's why my music is going to be aimed at prophetical things. So I'm saying that to say that these people who have sold their lives to self-idolatry, to be worshipped, God doesn't mean for anybody, thou shalt have no other gods before me, is what it says.
And you know.
So I get on a pitch sometime.
Oh, no.
Let me turn it down.
No, don't turn it down. Don't turn it down. Turn it up. Keep it up a notch.
Okay.
But let me just interject. You know, speaking of celebrities, I be seeing posts on Facebook how people be talking about celebrities and defending their celebrities. I'm like, they don't even know you.
Exactly.
It's insane. I mean, like to each his own. But I just like sometimes I'll be taking a break. I'm taking a break on social media. By the way.
Well, Prince didn't like the term fan.
Yeah.
He knew being Prince. He didn't. Listen, he's such a complex figure.
Yeah.
You know, Prince changed a lot of his song capacities. Like he would not do songs he wrote earlier in his career.
Yeah, he was Jehovah's Witness, right?
Yes, he was a Jehovah's Witness, and he was, and there was enough scripture about him, and this is where me and my guy that did the Prince show with me. This is where I had to break off with him, because I can't be it says, be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. He didn't believe in God. And I'm telling him, but how could you not believe in God when Prince, the guy you're emulating, believes in God? Like, well, and you know what?
He said,
I'm saying, but the Bible says, let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind. So, making him see things like eventually he doesn't realize it. I'm hoping since then he's starting to realize, because time is winding down. God gave the people in Noah's time 120 years to get their act together before the door closed on the ark. 120 years. There's a writing that said somewhere that said every hammer blow on the ark was a witness. They heard it every day. Why are you building this thing out in the middle? There's never been no rain out, or whatever they said. But the time came and they were all washed away. So I'm here to say that you can hold your posture, and I've learned, and you were saying it to me the other day, this is very true, because I'm listening to everything people say, you know. This is an age that is very, very rough on having an opinion. We can't have opinions anymore.
That's true. You can't have a difference of opinion.
You can't have an equal, and you can't respect somebody else's opinion anymore, to the point where you don't realize it, but you're blinding your own mind. See, there's a phrase in the Bible that says, Satan who has blinded the minds. See, this is not a whole bunch of, what's it called, like imagination, fairy tale stuff. When you see it all come together, when you learn to see things out of the lens of prophecy and out of the eyes of biblical time, historical events that really happened. Some people are not even sold on the fact that the Bible is real. And I'm like, well, archaeology has borne out more than this now. It's time to get off of this idea saying, oh, well, I doubt that Jesus ever existed. Keep playing around. Just keep playing around with that idea. Because there's a lot of claims that Jesus made. And one was, he said, that if I go, I will come again. So he's already saying I was here. So let me tie this in a little better for you.
Okay.
Artists are first on the line for projecting. I'm saying before preachers, even before these postulates and all these kinds of people and stuff. Do you know why? Because art has the greatest power of influence.
Of course.
It's about how you use your influence. God is going to judge you about how you use your influence. And when you made all kinds of songs glorifying this and glorifying that and tipping a bottle and all that, man, when it comes to you and your judgment, man, you are not going to like it. Because our gifts are given to us by God to display and speak of His glory, His plans, His ideas. And there will always be something that lifts people up. It lifts people up. So I'm saying that that's what you saw Prince going toward. He was, I heard he was ready to leave the Jehovah's Witnesses though, because there's some holes there. And I had some JWs come at me on the Prince site the other day, coming at me now about it, because I suggested that there is a difference of opinion about certain things that they have, and once again, can't have my opinion.
And have it anyway.
Well, absolutely, I do my best. Because I would respect, but I can't let somebody just come if I know that I learned something differently to at least express that to you. So here there's differences that will be expressed, and with my album, it will hopefully give me not only a platform to, what was I going to do? Oh, I was going to give you the lyrics to one of my songs. I wasn't going to sing today.
For your upcoming album?
Yes, there is a song.
Okay.
The song is called The Heavens Declare.
The Heavens Declare, okay.
It's off of a Bible verse that is quoted by King David in the Psalms. And I'm going to dedicate this one to an evangelist, friend of mine, who I've championed his evangelism to this day, and I've known him for many years, and he was a friend of Little Richard's. His name is Stephen Patterson.
Mr. Stephen Patterson.
Mr. Stephen Patterson from Philadelphia.
Philly.
Yes, indeed. It's called The Heavens Declare. It says, "The heavens declare of his glory, and men have died to tell of this story, of the heights and the depths, of the love that begets all the sons and the daughters of God. And greatest of all his creations are those who will triumph over Satan. And redemption's song will be sung loud and long. It will never be dimmed or abated. Will you be among the ones who cry for the rocks and mountains to hide you from his face? Or will you be among the ones who cry, lo, this is our God, and he will save us. He will save us." Prophecy is history revealing, and daily unfolding we see it. The Spirit of God being slowly withdrawn. Soon after, the faithful are sealed. Will you be among the ones who cry for the rocks and mountains to hide you from his face? Or will you be among the ones who cry, lo, this is our God, and he will save us. He will save us. One last word. If in your heart there is rebellion of what you will miss, there is no telling. For eye hath not seen, nor hath ear yet to hear what Christ has prepared for those who love him. Then, for the heavens declare. You know what my mother told me? My mother told me, after all the rejection and things I've gone through in the music business, she told me one day, she said, you know, my nickname, I have a whole bunch of nicknames, you know that. You see all my nicknames, Symphony in Disguise, Mr. Goldfingers,
Mr. Goldfinger,
Triple Crown Artistry,
Triple Crown,
yeah.
Goddamn,
The musical evangelist. My mother told me, Stevie, they call me Stevie. She said, you should have been an actor. Let me tell you why it's so funny to me.
Okay.
Because who goes through more rejection than in the musical artists? Actors. Yeah. Why would you want me to be? She's like, you should have been an actor. But that was my mother. My mother was a beautiful woman, man. She was a very prayerful, very spiritual woman. And every day. That's another thing I say. You have to be walking with the Lord like Enoch. It said Enoch walked with God. Well, how do you walk? One what? Step at a time.
One step at a time.
One day at a time.
One day, one step at a time.
That's it. It's really there. I gave you a book I wanted you to read with my mother's stuff in it. Hey, listen. Well, yeah, but I want you to read it. I want you to read a chapter or two here, just to familiarize yourself, because this may not be the last interview we do.
Oh no, this ain't gonna be the last interview.
This might be. Somebody might want us to do a part 2.
Well, we can do a part 2. Let's do it.
Really, man?
Really?
Well, I want to tell you, it's been my pleasure being here with you.
Hey, we got
Dapper Cool, Malik, Long. Yes.
Hold on.
I was trying to end this show for
No.
you.
We gotta keep it going, man. We gotta talk. See,
Okay.
You doing the tribute to Prince right now with the shirt and the,
Oh yeah. Well, that's some of my stage
purple shoes. That's what I'm
stage
talking
stuff.
about.
Yeah.
Yes, I like it. Now,
Yes.
one last question. Now,
Absolutely.
Mr. Gino Vannelli.
You want to talk about Gino Vannelli?
Let's talk about him before we wrap this up. I gotta bring him in because I saw a picture that you met him personally, and I remember
yes,
a picture that you I think you was passing him a musical sheet.
That's right.
So
No, it really wasn't. It was a sheet for. It was an evangelism sheet for Amazing Facts TV.
Okay.
Amazing Facts Ministry with Doug Batchelor. It's a ministry that deals with Bible truth through one of the. Even though I had a guy try to escort me one time from what's one of them, what's the Drexel University back east there. And this guy came in there and talked about Doug Batchelor and said some really not so nice things about Doug Batchelor. But I'm going to tell you, Doug Batchelor is on point. He is a scholar and a highly intelligent soul winner. He's not fire like Billy Graham. He's not like E. Cleveland or Charles Brooks or some of these. Who was my guy George Rainey? He wasn't like those guys, but his evangelism is spot on. In fact, he's doing Amazing Facts Ministry in New York. It's in Manhattan.
September 20th.
Oh, this September the 30th, I think. It's 20th.
Nice.
Yes, let the record show that Chanel Cray, my manager, is over there in the corner. I'm saying this, that I saw Gino. I've met Gino different times. I started writing Gino Vannelli when I was 16 years old. He had this thing in his music and his voice that I knew lived inside of me. I could get a lot of Gino Vannelli.
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure.
And before I even say about Gino, another thing about Al Jarreau.
Okay.
When I met Al Jarreau, it was amazing to me the fact that I could imitate so much of his singing, but I could play his music. He couldn't even do that.
That's how much you studied.
He could sing his music, but I'm saying I could play and sing his music. The only reason why I think I couldn't get it all the way is because you have to have freedom of your body to go into Al Jarreau. Al Jarreau is no joke, man. He was a
vocal aerobatic.
Oh, he was just. I adored Al Jarreau, and he also had some connections with the Seventh-day Adventists.
Okay.
So did Prince, for that matter. But I want to say this: Gino Vannelli was just an innovative, hands and shoulders, completely different guy to all of those people that were even singing in the 70s. And Stevie Wonder, Herb Alpert discovered him. There's a legendary story about Gino running through the gates of Charlie Chaplin's old studio, which is A&M. He ran through the gates to catch Herb Alpert, and the bodyguard, the security guard, was going to stop him with bodily force. And Gino said that Herb looked him over. He said, "I'll give you a half an hour." And he went and got his guitar, and he came back and he played. But Gino's a drummer, though. But he played the guitar and played all of his songs in front of him, and he got a deal right on the spot. So you can't do that today.
Now, speaking of Mr. Gino Vannelli, was it one of his brothers a drummer as well?
No.
A producer?
The other two brothers are producers, Joe and Ross.
Okay.
Ross wrote "I Just Want to Stop," the big hit. But Gino was but it was that he had all these. He was keyboards and percussion. He didn't use no. In the beginning, those albums were all done by him and his brother, and it was just Joe and Gino on keyboards and percussion. So I got very involved and inspired by Vannelli's material, and I started writing him when I was a teenager, and then finally years later. In fact, it wasn't until after Clive Davis blackballed him out of the business for what they say is artistic differences, but I have questions about what the real issue is with that. Anything with Clive Davis. I'm going to say it like it is because I know people like Jaguar Wright who will tell you. I'm not afraid because anybody that destroys musicians and watch Clive and what he was around now, Whitney Houston, Phyllis Hyman, there's destruction. So I question that. But Gino was blackballed out of the business. Almost made him suicidal, I heard. And finally, one day after 12 years, he came to Philadelphia to tour again at the Theater of the Living Arts. And I met my mentor, one of my inspirations. I had a handful of them, like I said, Andre Watts, Horowitz, and great composers like Franz Liszt and Rachmaninoff and people like that. But Gino was special, and he has ever been gracious. I always catch him at sound checks. He never bound me, said sit, because they wouldn't throw me out the building. I'm like, I'm not leaving until I beat. I'm gonna beat this guy, and just very mild, but highly intelligent. But his voice and his compositions are of a level and a depth to them, like few you can name. And here's my real deal: it's all tied up in one man. Stevie Wonder was all tied up in one man. Marvin Gaye, all tied up in one man. And those people inspired me. I just didn't get the breaks. I fell through the cracks of music. I still have music that can propel careers, probably.
Don't forget to give a shout out to your man.
And who's my last cat? Oh, and of course, right with Gino Vannelli, I got to say his name. He is the best. He's the most hustled I've seen in a musician in a long time. It's his saxophone player for 15 years. It's a guy named Patrick Lamb. I have a lot of love for Patrick Lamb.
Great guy.
And he is real. Like, see, I'm saying real because a lot of people, when they get started and stuff, you can't come up in their train and even touch them. These guys will take 5 minutes, sign your autograph, might even ask you what's for dinner. It's just I like to be real with people. I've had people come up and say incredible things to me in my life about my talent, and I always tell them about God. Now I'm absolutely about it, but I'm saying I have never heard sincere compliments and ever turned somebody like, you see, and that's why a lot of people in the music business just don't turn me on. I'm not interested in you. I'm interested in inspiration, and let me say this at the end of this: all music, all art is based on the very same thing the Bible is written on. All scripture is given by inspiration.
And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to conclude this interview. Stay tuned for a part 2 because it's going to be a part 2. I ain't finished with this guy yet, Mr. AJ. Mr. AJ,
yes, man.
It was a pleasure to have you on.
Always my pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for mentoring me.
Hey, thank you for being better than a couple of people I've met in the city already.
And you're going to continue on mentoring me, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right.
Just deal with the cornflakes, man.
And on that note, this is the Cool Brother Malik Long, aka Cool Brother Dapper Cool, signing off here at Level Up Studios. I'll see you again. Peace, love, and light, respect, and blessings to you all. Peace, one love, and we out.
All right.